It seems like every few years we hear about a new band coming out that is going to be the next AC/DC. In the early 90s, we had Rhino Bucket, a band I fucking loved and have promoted on this channel. Around 2007, the band Airborne came out with their album Running Wild, phenomenal, and they are still out there doing it. And over all those years, there's been a ton of other AC/DC clone-ish bands that have put out albums with varying degrees of success. And now we have Crossbone Skully.
Look, I came here to do two things: chew bubblegum and talk hair metal. And it looks like I'm almost out of bubblegum.
Welcome to the Hair Metal Guru. My name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. And today we're going to be talking about the band Crossbone Skully and their new album. Well, it came out November 22nd. The album called Evil World Machine. And yes, this channel is dedicated to hair metal. No, Crossbone Skully is not a hair metal band, but we run the gamut of heavy metal, hard rock, pop rock, AC/DC stuff. So Crossbone Skully fits into that framework, and they are a collaboration that is led by a guy named Tommy Henriksen, who has been like the creative band leader of the Alice Cooper Band since around 2011. So Tommy Henriksen has been bouncing around the music scene since the early 80s. I think in 1984 he was in a band called Rough Cut, Ruffkut. They put out, I guess, an album. I only found one song from the project on YouTube. Sounded pretty decent, basic 80s hard rock. In the mid 80s, he was playing, if you can trust the almighty Wikipedia, with Doro Pesh and Warlock for a few years. In the early 90s, he ended up playing in the CC DeVille project. What the fuck was that called? The CC DeVille project called Needle Park, which was when CC was in his full-blown addict phase. Never a good time to start a band, CC will tell you. And then, in 1993, he was on an album with Jeff Pilson for a project called War and Peace. Finally, after all that stuff, in the mid-90s, he fronts a punk band called Parade of Losers. They put out a couple albums that have, I think they had a song that had some minor success, a minor hit. And in the late 90s, he puts out a couple solo albums. This guy is a rock and roll fucking lifer. And I love that shit. Guys who just never give up trying to make it happen. And that's what Tommy Henriksen is. I've been on a Tommy Henriksen rabbit hole for the last fucking 2 days, reading about him, what I can find online, listening to interviews, going over his Wikipedia page, and checking out his shit on YouTube. And there's some really solid stuff. So, he's the leader of, not the leader of Alice Cooper, but of the band. He's a member of the supergroup Hollywood Vampires that has Cooper, Joe Perry from Aerosmith, Johnny Depp from the Amber Turd shitting on the pillow situation. And apparently, the genesis for this Crossbone Skully project starts when, like, in sound checks, he starts, like, playing AC/DC prototype lyrics and singing Bon Scott prototype vocals. And people are looking at him going, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, he's like, I'm just messing around. And everyone's telling him, this is great shit. You need to do something with this. You need to put a band together and record this style of song that you're playing during these sound checks. And enough people tell him, and he's like, you know what? Maybe something can come out of this. That leads to Crossbone Skully. So he starts writing all these songs, kind of with the Bon Scott AC/DC-ish sound in mind, but not just a strict AC/DC clone. But he writes an album. He gets people to play on it. I know he plays guitar and bass. I don't know to what extent. I'm not a genius on everything Tommy Henriksen, but I know he gets, somebody else plays most of the guitar on the album. And I got to go get my dog. Come on. Yeah. Okay, there's Charlie. Yeah, she's very pretty. She's very nice, and you're very famous on YouTube. Yeah, everybody like you so much. How come everybody like you so much? You're like the hair metal queen. I was going to say hair metal bitch, but just kidding. She's not a bitch, even though technically she's a bitch. So anyway, he gets these songs put together. And being that the guy's been in the industry forever, talks to Nikki Sixx, gets Nikki Sixx to play bass on a song. Talks to Phil Collen from Def Leppard, gets Phil Collen to play guitar on a song. So he has these songs put together. And then guess who fucking executive produces this thing? Mutt Lange. Mutt Lange, probably, if you're a rock and roll fan, the greatest producer of all time. This guy has produced more diamond 10 million selling albums than fucking anybody as far as I know. AC/DC's Highway to Hell, I don't think it went diamond. It sold 8 million copies. Back in Black by AC/DC. Foreigners 4. Def Leppard's Pyromania and Hysteria. Bryan Adams' Waking Up the Neighbors. And a shit ton more. So Mutt Lange doesn't work on projects for the money. He works on projects. The guy's basically been retired for who knows how many years. So he only works on shit when he wants to and when it's something that he knows he can get behind. He got behind Crossbone Skully, executive produced it. So the album comes out November 22nd. And I just remember, I think I was on X. And, people will recommend stuff like, hey, dude, have you listened to this? There's a group of people that talk hair metal, hard rock, heavy metal, and we're always recommending stuff to each other. And someone's like, man, have you listened to this Crossbone Skully album? And I'm like, Crossbone Skully, what the fuck is that? And so I start listening to it, and holy shit, that thing just reignited my rock and roll fire. And so I'm always still searching out for new bands. And there's a lot of good new bands that are doing 80s inspired hard rock. I know some people don't like to be called 80s, but whatever. That's what I talk about. So anyway, this Crossbone Skully album is phenomenal. So I'm going to give you some songs that I think you should listen to. The one with Phil Collen on guitar, The Boom Went the Boom. Pure AC/DC-ish, fucking straight ahead, sleazy rock, amazing. Money, Sex, or God Will Not Leave Your Head. Everyone's on Dope. Again, straight ahead, hard rocking. Let's Bust the Trust. This leaves that AC/DC template and kind of goes to a Irish punk rock. Flogging Molly is kind of what I hear. Fantastic song. High on You, featuring Nikki Sixx on bass. Those are all fucking great rock songs. And then there's a couple songs that are kind of slower and moodier, and they're called I Am the Wolf and The Last Night on Earth. But there is nothing that is bad on this album. The whole fucking thing is solid from beginning to end. So I highly recommend you listen to Evil World Machine. Now, in wrapping up, I do want to say I don't know all the people that are involved in the project. I think that the people that you see in the videos, by the way, Anna Cara on guitar, smoking hot, just an FYI, and whoever the chick is on drums, also smoking hot. I don't know if those people played on the album. I think they came in after the album was put together. So somebody in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong. So I think it was all put together before the band in the videos came together. But I want to say this about a guy like Tommy Henriksen. I root for these rock and roll lifers. The people that, have never, the people that keep, slugging away, playing the clubs, keep putting out albums, keep, waiting for that dream shot. Now, he got lucky, and well, I don't want to say lucky, because the guy obviously busted his ass for a ton of years, ends up with Alice Cooper. I'm sure he does very well playing with Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper still tours like a maniac. But I love that a guy like this is still like, you know what? I'm going to put out a fucking album, and I'm going to promote that shit, and we're going to run it up the flagpole and see who salutes it. So even though I've never been in a band, I consider myself a rock and roll lifer. Like, my house is dedicated to rock and roll. Okay? If I'm not talking about rock and roll on this channel, I'm thinking about rock and roll. I'm watching videos about rock and roll. I'm reading about rock and roll. I'm 52 fucking years old, and I still live rock and roll. So a guy like Tommy Henriksen and this project, Crossbone Skully, I root for it. I hope this is the album that, the album that he led, that he probably always dreamed about, that explodes and takes him to the fame and success, or whatever it is that he hopes to come out of this project. If not, I'm sure he can always fall back on songwriting and playing with Alice Cooper. But Crossbone Skully, Evil World Machine, I cannot recommend that album enough. Go out and buy it. Hey, until the next video comes out, my name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. Take care.